Here we go. We have here some bits chopped up for a single frame armature. Um, this is a single heavy gauge wire. This is about a 20 gauge, I believe. But basically what we got here is the shoulders, the hips, and the backbone. The way I've figured up for scale is on a male figure, your shoulders are wider than your hips. So bend the shoulders, bend the hips. If you're making a female model, depending on the robustness of the female, it would be opposite. The shoulders would be narrower than the hips or the same width for a female. But since we're making a male, we're going wider shoulders, narrow hips. So once you get sort of this section, if you've got a figure tree, which I know Calm Snake put up a video there the other night on one that he had found, downloaded it, would get you set on your scale. But since we're not really worried about scale, we're just trying to learn how to make armatures. This is not to any particular scale. This is just clipped wire and bent. But we'll still get you there. Once you can make this, making a true scale one or a whatever scale. When you have the tree, you can cut it to length and stuff and make this. This is actually a fairly easy way to do an armature. I'll show you some other things here in a minute. But basically, once you get to this stage, Comstick took and soldered the joints, which is great if you've got access to a solder, iron. Putting some solder in it will make us a really good strong joint. But right now we don't have one, so basically took a little bit of green stuff. And say you'll take your shoulder and just tack it with some green stuff. I'm going to pull this out of the camera for a second so I can pick stuff up. Stuff's sticking in my fingers here. But get you a little tack of green stuff. And just sort of wrap the corner like I shown you there with that one miniature, the pre-made, where I was tacking the corners. You can do the same with green stuff on making your armature. And this is a little bit more time consuming than like Calm Snake did with the solder, because once the solder sets, you're good to go. But since we got to sort of wait on green stuff to dry in this instance, we basically get just a little blob. Don't have to be perfect or anything, because we're going to be covering it, but you'd get sort of that point right there. Another thing you could do, just for simplicity, so it doesn't flop around quite as much, this here is just some super glue. Put you a little dab, and let it set. Come on. And then, just to make sure, wrap it in some green stuff. See, the super glue already came loose, but see, it's really old, nasty super glue. And you've got you a base armature. Like I say, the scale is off on this, but like I say, we're just going to practice making a functional tree. And as you can see, this green stuff is just sort of flopping around and not really sticking. What we would do to fix that, and like I say, if you've watched Snake's videos, all you need to fix it is some really light gauge wire. Like I say, this here is the 28 gauge we used for the last one. Is you clip you off a bit. Like I say, you'll need a really thin light gauge wire for this. If you can't access a lighter gauge wire, just take and make you a wire from like a green stuff tube. Just roll it out real thin. A real thin little rope of green stuff. And then we wrap. You don't have to make it a solid thing, you're just wrapping up the wire to give you a ridge. Something like that. Then you just go back through and stick it. But you're just getting a little bit of something for the green stuff to stick to. Now you just let that set when it's set up, and then we'll go back and add more medium to it of whatever we're making. You know, say we're using clay, or we're using green stuff, or milliput, or whatever you've got to build with. But that'll give you a base to work up from. Say you've got the wire to do it. It's pretty much the same thing. You just take the wire and wrap the skeleton. Yeah, I prefer the wire. It's easier to mess with. When you get to your joint, do a double loop just to give it some extra strength. See, I'm mashing that other green stuff down. Be good to let it set first. But like I say, for the video, we get the idea of. Well, you can also see how the green stuff gets crammed in around the wire this way. So, but basically, you would cover the entire miniature. You go legs, up the backbone, down the other arm. Same with the green stuff. You would take, if you're doing this with wire, you just wire the whole frame. If you're doing green stuff, just green stuff the whole frame. As you can see, the green stuff, how it's mashed in around the wire right there. That's sort of what we're going for. So, because when you start applying your green stuff, it gives it something to dig into. See, like this wire down through here, what you do, you just take your green stuff and sort of wrap it into the wire. Get her down good and snug. And basically, you'd use that to bulk out the miniature some, so you're not using as much. You see, just start wrapping in green stuff around your wire. Or if you're using it as a base, just get you a rope of it. It's really, really ugly and dirty, but it's sort of just to give us the idea of what we're doing. And just like with the other one, once you get the wire wrapped, or right before you wrap the wire, you set a pose. Like I say, Calm Snake has got video up now where you've done several to get it to the position to wrap. So either taking some green stuff, wrapping it up like this, or taking some wire and wrapping it to give it your green stuff someplace to set is the next step. So, if you want to work single wire frame, this will give you an idea of how to do it. Stay tuned. I'm gonna do one more. Well, probably not in this series. We're going to build figure first. Once we get the figure, we'll start working on some larger stuff, doing dragons or something along those lines. And I'll show you some other tricks to do with, well, even, I'll come back and I'll show you the next one to do with the heavy gauge wire and little tricks. So, okay, stay tuned. Next one up, we're going to do some little modifications to these to do something a little different. So, stay tuned for the next one. And if you get a chance, run by and check out Calm Snake. I'll put a link to his channel so you can check out some of the armatures he's built. So stay tuned at the end here. I'll put up some links, and we'll see you in the next video.